It's my pleasure today to have Brendan Lofty from Aqua Broadcast with us. Brendan's going to talk about the Cobalt transmitters and some of the other things that they do out there. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting based on what I saw at the NAB show. So, Brendan, I'll turn it right over to you.
Right. Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us. We've we've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes, and obviously right up front, where a lot of people are really taking notice of Aqua Broadcast as a brand and our Cobalt transmitter range. And we've got a few new interesting products that are coming up shortly, which will be announced in due course. But I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the business development manager at Aqua Broadcast. Um, we've got a really good, tight team of colleagues. A couple of us have joined. My colleague Pavel Velusik, he's our technical director. He will be going into a little bit deeper into the Cobalt transfer than I certainly will. Um, whilst my knowledge is good, he is the architect and the designer of his baby, so it's all good. Um, so let me just pull up if I can. I'm just going to share just a couple of PowerPoint things, and I can talk through a few of the things if that's all right. Cool. All right. So basically, Aqua Broadcast has been around for we're our sixth year, I think it is now. And as I said, we've got a real good team of people from sales, management, engineering, logistics, operations, production. We're a UK-based manufacturer. We design the products in the UK. We manufacture pretty much most of it in the UK. Certainly, all the final assembly testing is all done in the UK. We're pretty proud of our achievements so far, and all our staff are really well trained in what we do. Um, there's a very large cumulative years of experience with our staff from production right through to sales staff that we have. Um, our technical director, Pavel, who I'll introduce to you shortly, he's an engineer. Most of the guys who work with us are engineers or who've been ex-engineers. So we like to think we build products by engineers for engineers. We just like to see what you guys want, the users, and listen to you guys rather than we just dictating technology to you.
Hello. Oh, hi, Karen. Mom's over there right now.
So we have our own research and development team where we do a lot of in-house work. Pretty much, let's just say all the in-house work from metalwork design, PCB design, the architecture of it. And we are pretty unique in that there are not too many companies anymore who have a full in-house R&D team. A lot of companies in this industry and many other industries outsource these facilities to get people to help them out with their engineering. It gives us an advantage in that we can dictate both the speed, the pace and the speed, as well as direction of our development work, and gives us more control of obviously the full design aspect of it, but timelines as well. And it works out really, really well for us. So not only do we do FM transmitters, we've got some audio processors coming through. We've got a collaboration with David Reeves Audio for the Zen 10, which is a intelligent stereo AGC leveler. We also have done some work with some other companies within this industry and other industries as well, to assist them with some of their challenges. So we've got a lot of competition out there, but we've got a lot of friends as well. So when we look at products, especially the Cobalt transmitter, which we're going to focus on today, we looked at it and thought, well, FM transmitters have pretty much been the same basic design, how they work, what they do, for goodness sake, since they pretty much started out. And we looked at it and we thought, well, there's different ways of doing it. There's got to be better ways of doing it, more efficient ways of doing it. But also it was coming up in that development stage towards COVID, and a lot of folks and manufacturers had problems getting components, components being obsolete. So we'd already looked at going, or we're at a very advanced stage of going a different direction and using a Raspberry Pi as a system controller, which gives us multiple advantages, which I'm sure Pavel will explain in detail, but they include availability worldwide, security, processing power. Just the whole complete package is very, very powerful and flexible. So we've got the Cobalt FM transmitter range. We've also got an FM amplifier range. The translators are pretty much the transmitter with a optional tuner card that we fit into the transmitter. And then the new audio processor range, which you can see at the bottom there, which is about to go live into production within the next, I'm going to say probably 6 to 8 weeks, but I'm sure Pavel will correct me on that. Our amplifiers are pretty unique as well. They are dual input with automatic switching should one of your exciters fail. That's pretty unique that we have that facility as well. World first technologies within FM transmitters. We're pretty proud of that. Linux operating system. We were the first to have SNMP version 3. HTTPS, giving added security to your transmitter, and within your network environment, you can install your own network security certificate within the transmitter. Micro MPX, we were the first. There are a couple others who are looking at doing it as well now, but that is available as a license that can natively put into the transmitter. Micro MPX with SFN is a very new development as well. Partnered with our friends at 2WCOM, we offer the Moin codec option that goes direct into the Cobalt transmitter. And then what we did beginning of this year is we, on 300 watts right up to 5 kilowatt, we included a standard backup power supply already built into all those transmitters from 300 watts to 5 kilowatts. And we've got a real advanced automations, configurations, kind of like preset, should we say, but it's a lot more advanced than normal. I'm not going to go through all these standard features because there's just so many. But highlighting some of the ones that are real useful: backup audio player via USB or a local internal storage, shoutcast, icecast input as a source or as a backup source. That's a very new one as well. So when you have those figured in with the audio failover and silence detection, you've got a box that's going to be able to handle multiple input sources and switch automatically if any of them should fail. And of course, you're going to get notified by the advanced notifications facilities we have. Things like digital multiplex, AES-192 standard, DDS exciter. This is the inside of I think it's a 300 watt unit. Pavel will probably say I'm wrong. It might be a 700. I think it's 300 watt. You can see they're real clean, real neat inside. We don't have jumbles of wires. There are wires, but a lot of them are neatly hidden away. So whilst we try to take care of the outside of the product and the operation of the product, we have enough pride within our facility to know that it's got to be nice, neat. It's got to be built correctly on the inside and the outside. So the attention to detail is really, really important to us, and nothing is overlooked with our products. We have some options as well. I mentioned a couple of them: micro MPX SFN, the Moine codec, 6-band audio processor, which just fits in on a little slot on the top, and then on a 48-volt DC power, which is kind of cool for products. So like 100 watts and below, you can run full RF with the plus 48-volt DC. This is the back of a 2U product, so it would be like a 300 watt, 700 watt, or 1 kilowatt transmitter. All our transmitters from 10 watts through to 1 kilowatt are FCC certified for LPFM. Now, of course, 250 watts is your typical LPFM or lower. But because there are some commonalities on the platform, we were able to get the FCC certification for all of it. So if the increase in from the FCC ever does come about, the products are catered for already. And these are, other than these two green bits here, which are actually options, everything else there is standard. The dual inputs on the power supply. So you could have, say, on a 300 watt transmitter, if you had both AC powers plugged in and one of the power supplies failed, or maybe you got one onto your AC line and one onto a UPS, the other one would just automatically take over. And you can be notified with that as well. The front panel control, we did a little bit different. We removed the facility of using generic rotary encoder or cursors. And this is a joystick, kind of like a PlayStation or an Xbox joystick. It's a lot more intuitive. You know, I suppose for the younger guys, it's very intuitive. But when you actually setting up a transmitter for the first time, it works really, really well. It's quick, it's easy. The whole menu structure is kind of like in a big circle. It's not difficult to navigate. It's difficult to get lost within the navigation, screen navigation, but it's just really, really cool. It's really neat. In terms of getting a transmitter on air for the first time, all the transmitters I've ever used, I can hand on heart say this is the fastest I've ever got on air. It's real quick. Every transmitter has a really good remote control system, which this is the desktop version. The version that sort of scales down for your mobile device. It looks pretty much the same, it's just different scaling up. It's all web-based. You don't need to install any software. You can control it from any web-enabled device anywhere in the world. You can pick up your phone, you can look at it, you can do software updates from your phone, you can do a lot of stuff. Okay. And that the great thing is the remote control web interface is the same, whether it's a 10 watt unit or a 5 kilowatt unit, it's exactly the same. We have audio processing built into each transmitter as standard. It has a bypass and 21 presets. You've got a really good punchy sound. A lot of people will say it sounds kind of like an Omnivolt. I would agree in some ways. I like the sound of it straight out the box. It's pretty impressive. It's not going to be to everyone's taste or flavor, but if you're not going to use this, you can stick it into bypass, use your favorite audio processor, or even better, try one of the new ones which we've got coming out. So I mentioned this new processor range coming out, which we're going to be showing at the IBC show in September. They were initially launched and shown at the NAB. If any of you guys were there, they were on our stand there. RDS encoder standard. You get your basic side of things. I mean, with middleware, Magic RDS. I'm trying to think of there's a new one I'm aware of now. You can take that. You can take. I've got folks using Zeta, Myriad, Station Playlist, MA List, basically anything that can dump out the necessary file. A lot of them are just text files, or XML files. Then basically you're going to get your song title, track data coming through as well into the transmitter. We were talking a little bit about the micro MPX and the micro MPX SFN side of things. So you've got various encoders which you can use. Some are hardware based from Omnia, Digigram. Then you've got the actual Thymia micro MPX encoder. And basically, if you're running this point to point, like as an STL scenario, you just basically going to go through the public internet and send it through to the transmitter, and it comes out, and you've got all your in the case of using like this Omnia 9 or a 5950 Optimod, you've got your processing or your RDS information all coming through via IP direct into the transmitter, and it's just all handled. You can run micro MPX with one encoder to multiple decoders. So you could have, if you, as an example, if you had a transmitter at every single state that's not going to overlap and interfere with each other, you could send them the same audio from one encoding source. Going up from that, the new function is the SFN side of things. So the single frequency network, instead of just utilizing traditional microwave type STL products, you can utilize micro MPX SFN. And on each, from the encoder side and on each decoder side on the transmitter, there's a GPS time-aligned oscillator that we use that, coupled with NMEA data, timestamps it all correctly. You then, within the transmitter remote control environment, you can change a few settings, the delays, and get as much of that mush out as possible. We've got a few systems of this already out there working in the Caribbean. Really good, really well priced for what you can get out of it. And this is a new thing. As I mentioned, in partnership with our friend at 2WCom, we've worked with them to offer the MOIN codec. And you can see the supported codecs that it uses. I mean, we've got a whole bunch there of pretty much everything that most folks would use. Absolutely brilliant product. 2WCom have been in this business a long time. They're good friends of ours. And it's something, again, you can consider, really well priced as well. We also do some variations of our transmitters. It's what we call an industrial transmitter. It's up to 100 watts, and it does away with the front panel control and the screen, and it's designed to go more to like cabinets, tunnel systems, places that need to be out of the way. Meters, emergency use is a great one for this. In Australia, they use a lot of these on mines with the 48 volt DC input on this. So they will run radios on huge open cast iron ore mines, running off solar panels and battery systems at night, and they have all this and they absolutely love it. So with larger systems, 3, 4, and above transmitter sites, we do offer a sort of network management system for free to customers, so they can monitor, they can see information on it, all visible on one screen. There are some other systems out there which are obviously a lot more intense and higher resolution what they can do, but that's not what we've designed this for. This is designed to give people a real good quick snapshot of what things are happening, and you can still go in and still see your relative information that you really need. Our amplifiers, I mentioned earlier that we've got these dual inputs. They both inputs are available in what we call normal and a low power input. So depending which power you want, you can really go very low exciter power into these transmitters. It just depends on which version you want. At the time of order, you just say, oh, with the high power or low power, because I'm only going to be pushing in whatever. But as an example, a 700 watt, 1 kilowatt transmitter, 5 to 7 watts nominal drive. It's quite happy with that. And what it'll do is that if you've got the dual exciters, if one exciter fails, it'll automatically switch over to the other one. So that's a pretty successful product, used a lot in Asia markets. They like that. We've got a changeover switch, 1+1 changeover, which is 1 RU, very flexible. It's got internal relays that can handle up to 100 watts, and then you can use your favorite external relay. And you just basically, ever wanted one, just tell us what you got, and we'll just confirm the compatibility of the relay with you. This is really intelligent. It works kind of like the Cobalt transmitter in terms of the way it detects faults and reports and has notifications. It's very advanced for compared to other changeover switches out there at the moment. The processors I've mentioned, we got the new Pacific and Arctic. So the Pacific is the 6-band and the Arctic is the 4-band. We'll be starting out with the 4-band Arctic. So hopefully in the next few weeks, those will be ready to start shipping. We've got test units that have been done and so on. We're just finalizing a few software bits, and then we're going to push the button and good to go with them. A few options, Snate 67 IP codecs. It's a great product. I can't tell you what it sounds like because I can't compare it to like the newer Orbans because I haven't actually listened to it. So I don't say that it's going to be better or worse, or I just don't. I can't compare it to that. But if I take it, to some other products out there, yeah, this is real good. Price wise is a lot cheaper as well. If anyone wants pricing, it will all be on our website. There's a lovely picture of myself and Pavel, who you'll meet shortly. So 2024, we got Radio World winner at the NAB show in Las Vegas for the Cobalt range. It was a first of hopefully many awards coming. Same year, we got a Red Tech Award at the IBC show as well. And who knows, hopefully we'll win something this year as well. We've got a few products entered in for that. That's it for me. Thank you very much for listening to me. If you have any questions, you can ask me now, or what I would probably do then is hand over to my colleague Pavel, who can really go into deep things with any questions you have. But if anyone's got a question for me, fire ahead.
Well, Brendan, one of the things that I thought was very interesting is very minor, I suppose, in the scheme of a transmitter, but you mentioned that you have a local remote button feature that
Oh yeah.
I think was good.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't explain that to you guys. I don't know, I call it the save your bacon button. So typically you guys will know you go out to a transmitter site and it's a remote site, you've got a local and a remote control button. And you're up that mountain, Northern California, wherever you're at, and you've been doing some work there and storm's coming in or it's getting late, you go down the mountain, drive 4 5 hours home, and you forgot to give the local control back. And you now have no remote control. And you have two choices. You're either embarrassed, you go back, or you go back when the weather comes back, or you're going to wait till summer next year, depending what time of the year this has happened. So what we did is we put a timer um, within the web interface environment. And basically that timeout, its principal function is to, you could say, right, after 2 minutes or 60 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you're going to define it at, if I've pushed that local button and I haven't touched it for, say, 30 minutes, it's going to automatically at 30 minutes send it back to the remote control. So you're not going to have to worry about that. You're not going to have to explain it to someone that you forgot to do it. So basically, that's why I call it the saving your bacon button.
Let me ask you about the audio section a little bit, or you may want to pass this one. I'll make it your choice, and then we'll let anybody else ask questions. Everybody wants to know how clean the exciter is. And in some of the material that you've sent out, I've read, you've given special attention to the exciter. What would you like to say about that?
I'm going to say everyone's going to say that their exciter is the cleanest. And of course, we will too. Probably from a technical point of view, Pavel would be best to get into that because he knows the full architecture of it. You can say, Pavel will probably can correct me if he needs to. You could say that, okay, you know, there's 5 companies with a DDS exciter. Some of them are not as clean as others, and it's just straight audibly clear immediately. Whether that's just to the way that they do it or they're cutting corners at it, you'd need to figure out from the design aspect on it. But I think, yeah, Pavel probably is going to be the best person to answer that question on how and why it's so clean.
All right. Rich Wood asks, will the U.S. tariffs put you at a disadvantage?
Um,
Too soon to know?
the tariffs are there, and being in the UK, we've been lucky. We've only been hit with a 10% tariff. Other countries have got higher tariffs. We've had some initially, during the, NAB when that was the started up, there was a few people who were like, "Wow, this is going to be crazy, and how they're going to be paid."
Hey, Brendan, can I help?
We've been helping people.
So far, the systems that we've quoted, while the tariffs have cut into our advantage, we still have a pricing advantage.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think is the simplest way to put it.
Very good. Very good. Have a note here from Victor. Will there be the possibility of live wire plus AES67?
We have, you can check with Pavel, but we have had some AES67 stuff through Dante. I'm not sure what his plans are with that. To be honest, we haven't had many people asking about Livewire or Livewire Plus. It just hasn't really happened. From a sales point of view, and listening to people, talking to people, and more importantly, we're asking these questions when we're at trade shows as well. And it hasn't been much. But Pavel, perhaps when you come online, you could elaborate on the AES67.
He may need to unmute himself.
Are you on mute, Pavel?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, all good. So just quickly, AES67 is part of the Dante/AES67 option that comes as a factory-fitted module, which will enable the connectivity. When it comes to Livewire, it's been always a little bit, on the edge. Where do we go if we support everything or every standard there exists out there, especially in Europe and Asia. There seems to be the micro MPX is getting more and more popularity, which will probably at some point take majority of the market. So this is something that we focused on and implemented the micro MPX straight away. At the moment, we probably don't have any plans to incorporate the Livewire.
Would you, as long as we have you there, would you like to talk a little bit about the exciter and the
Yeah, sure. I was going to mention that, when my time comes, to give you a bit more detail about the user interface and settings and stuff like that. Simply put, the exciter is state of the art, which means it's the best that can be implemented with the current technology. If anyone's interested in the technical details, our modulator is running at 900 megahertz sampling with 16-bit resolution, which effectively gives you, if you would imagine, 16 bits in audio, gives you CD quality audio, and this is applicable to the whole FM system. So it's probably the best it can get.
Okay. Any other questions that you'd like to bring anybody? You can press your space bar to unmute or alternate A and bring a question forward. Brendan, technical support. It's a big issue, especially for products that are manufactured overseas.
Yeah. So basically, we've had a lot of internal discussions. We've had a lot of discussions with users in the United States as well. Our ultimate aim is to have one or two facilities with some technical support in the US. At the moment, we are still trying to finalize that. We've been talking to a couple of people about it. Currently, technical support is done direct from the factory. Several of us, we all pitch in and do it, as well as our engineers. And we'll pass it around, give people like a roto on it. Technical support typically on this product, as opposed to my experience on other products, has been thankfully minimal. And typically the technical support questions or queries or phone calls we've been getting are people perhaps not familiarizing themselves with the user manual as well as they should. So it could have been like, oh, how do I do this? Okay, yeah, I'll show you a shortcut and we'll do that quickly. In terms of actual product faults, very, very, very minimal. And I'm proud of our team for the brilliant product that's been designed and developed here. If we have had some technical issues, we take them incredibly seriously and we action them and we get parts sent out. I could talk all day saying we've had minimal. I'm gonna count probably on both hands. I wouldn't fill every finger for an actual true failure we've had in 1,000 odd transmitters, and that's the truth. But I totally understand and agree with folks in the US about customer support, and this is why we're taking these steps along with our two US sales representatives, Ted Nahill and Steve Paulson, to identify some local facilities or engineers who would be able to offer that frontline support and physical work as and when it's required.
Brendan, it's Ted. I let folks know too that I'm available on the East Coast in Florida, and I've already helped a couple of folks. And as Brendan mentioned, most of the issues that are brought up are just like, okay, how do I wire this? How do I configure this? So I'm available to help. And if I can't get an answer, if I don't have the answer, I can get one. There are parts in the US. I see Chuck's asking about what happens if somebody gets hit by lightning. There are parts in the US currently at a dealer. And as Brendan mentioned, we're working on getting a couple of other contract type engineers. We've got a guy out in Utah that's interested and somebody in the Carolinas to be frontline tech support as well. We're working on getting some parts. Chuck, I know if lightning lets the smoke molecules out, you can never get them back where they belong. I understand that. But luckily, as Brendan pointed out, we've not even had one of those, and I've been doing this with them for over a year now, haven't even had an issue. So knock wood, there it is on my wooden desk. But we'll get you answers as quickly as we can and help as quickly as we can. And there is, Steve and I are both in the US and we're East Coast. So we've got the availability to help where we can.
One nice, oops, go ahead.
I was just going to say about the only transmitter failure of any brand I've ever had to do with lightning. I mean,
Yeah.
I live where you stick an antenna 500 feet in the air and you're asking for it, and we've done all kinds of weird stuff trying to alleviate that. But I have had several crispy critters come back, and including some from some other company in the UK who are very good about fixing things, but I had to ship it there. So that was kind of a problem.
Yeah. And one of the things we've done with, as I mentioned, on the 300 watt to 5 kilowatt transmitters, we ship it with a redundant power supply already installed. So that's ready to go. So power supplies are the Achilles heel of any product, whether it's a transmitter or your TV, your computer, whatever. Our power supplies are always available, and they are incredibly good, and at least 50% cheaper than a GE product. We have these things. We have so many power supplies because we're building so many transmitters, and each of 300 to a kilowatt, they each take 2 power supplies. It only needs 1 power supply to work it. But we're pretty good with the power supplies. And as you said, lightning is a problem. And lightning, pretty much you're going to do everything you can to mitigate it. But Chuck, you would know what it's like in Texas. It can be pretty brutal.
Yes, it can, and it really blows up those little MOSFETs on the pellets.
Yeah.
They go right away.
Yeah.
So one nice thing about products being this small is if it totally blows up, hardware failure due to lightning or whatever, just do a repair exchange. Just ship out a new one or a repaired one and get somebody back on the air. We don't need to have every part in stock and have the people in the field soldering down surface mount parts. This is an advantage of, they weren't going to ship me a new Bauer 707 when something went wrong with that.
One thing we've got, Harold, Pavel put on a diagnostics facility on the web interface, which basically helps us and helps you. And you can imagine it's just like if you like a green tick and an X, fan, power supply, FPGA, exciter, so on. If one of those is not working, we know exactly where it's at. So we know, okay, Harold, you got this problem. Okay, we'll just ship this board out. Done. We're not expecting people to go down to component level. I think we've all pretty much agreed that those days are gone with transmitters. It just doesn't need to happen.
Well, two questions then come to mind. One is, if you don't mind my asking, how many units do you have in this country now? And if there were a lightning strike and total blowout, would you have a spare one located anywhere in the country?
In terms of a spare transmitter, some of the dealers might have stock. We have been speaking with them about keeping some allocated stock for it. Unless someone can correct me, one of my colleagues, I don't think we've had a lightning strike issue in 3 years. Am I right? Anyone?
I think you're right. We do have some spare transmitters in the US as well. We have a couple of dealers, as Brendan mentioned. I think I'm going to wind up with one here, probably 300 watts in the next month or two. We were talking about that the other day. So that worst case, I can get somebody back on the air with a 300-watt transmitter that I can get out of here, to somewhere in the country. So we've really come a long way since the NAB. I'll stop talking, but
yeah. So it's just one thing for everyone to understand is if we need to ship something quick, other than Alaska, you're pretty much going to have it the next day or the day after if it's a real urgent thing. FedEx is real quick. I can get something from the UK to California way faster than, I don't know, Florida to Georgia, way quicker. So it does work. The systems with the shipping work incredibly well. So just always keep that in mind.
Okay, let me take you in another direction. You mentioned SFN, and this past week, the FCC finally gave approval, and then it was published, and it's now available for stations to use. You've had a fair amount of experience with SFN in Europe, I would imagine, and they call it zone casting or something similar here at times. You want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so it's a good positive direction for the US. We have already been talking with a few players in the last, I don't know, almost a year now on this about the zone casting in the US. We've always had sync inputs for 1 PPS and 10 megahertz alignment signals in all our transmitters. Where you'd utilize an external GPS oscillator to get that audio in. Now getting that audio in via traditional microwave, things like that, has its challenges. in terms of getting the timings correct. Micro MPX SFN takes that challenge to a different level because now you're dealing with packets rather than raw audio, and typically going over the public internet. So there is a lot more resolution involved with the micro MPX SFN. Now, with SFN zone casting, you're never going to get it 100% perfect. I've heard of some people in certain markets in the world who do a pretty good job at it, but it comes down to the factors of the most important thing you've got to consider is every single transmitter you use has got to be from the same brand. So if you're using a Nortel product and a Creso product and a Crown and something else, and all trying to get it to work, I'm not going to give you a very good chance of getting it to work correctly. So that is a crucial bit of advice to follow. So if you've got a 10 kilowatt Nortels and you wanted to do zone casting, you're going to have to get another Nortel. It's almost likely.
If I may add to that, SFN, as it sounds exciting as a a technology that I can save the day. It's very important not to skip the most, I would say probably the most important thing, which is the planning stage. So planning is absolutely crucial. It's not like that you have a challenging terrain and the solution is SFN. It has to work, on a theoretical level, on the planning level, that all the areas, they have an intersection in the right direction, the correct amount of overlapping area, etc., etc. So that's also very important, and I believe that it's something that we can also help with the software, sophisticated software for coverage planning.
Very good. Any other questions, folks? Anything you'd like to know about the Aqua line or the Cobalt transmitters?
One thing I can say as well, if anyone wants to, on our website, we do have under a section called technology. We do have an online demo of a transmitter in the office. If it does, it's got some simple instructions how to use it and how to log in. If it does say that it's in use, it means there's too many people using it. You might just have to go away and come back in 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so. But it'll give you a good idea of what it can do. But also, you can contact us. We do online demos, training sessions for people who got the products, who want to know a bit more what they can do. We do that. We do that in both English and in Spanish. So people can book an appointment with us or with myself or my colleague Marcos. And we're more than happy to help people out. And it just gives you a real feel of what the capabilities are with this transmitter. I could sit and talk about it. Pavel could talk about it. If I show you what it can do, you get a much greater idea of the power of this product.
Which is something that probably, I can give a quick overview, a quick presentation of the Cobalt functionality and the options, just so you can get a feel for it. And then, as Brendan said, you can try the online demo and play with it yourself.
Sure.
Okay. So let me quickly share my screen, which I think is this one. All right. So I've got some two transmitters connected at the moment. One is, let's say, a standard transmitter in a standard configuration that has some test audio tone coming in. And there's another one that has a few extra options that I can show you a little bit later. So this is how it looks like when you connect to the transmitter. It lands on what we call a dashboard that's been designed to give you a quick overview of how is the transmitter doing, how it's set up, and if it's doing well. On the left-hand side, there is a menu that is structured in a way in the same way that you would be setting the unit up. So we start from the radio frequency and moving on to inputs, setting up the audio processor, the RDS, moving on to exciter and stereo, and then configuring the output, coming to some more specialized stuff like the synchronization, if you need to deploy the audio player, and then the kind of smarter stuff, which is the automations and any system settings. So dashboard is where you land. Gives you an overview of what the unit is, what's the model, the software version, which is quite important. For example, if you need any support, we need to get some set of information. The software version is one of them, the serial number as well. You can give your transmitter a name, especially if you have more transmitters on the same network, so you can easily see which one is which. Unit time, and then some status alarms, and some maintenance buttons. One of them takes you directly to the logs. The other one is for update and reboot. Never had to reboot anything. And on the very top, you can hide the menu if you need. If the screen resolution is too small, the menu taking too much of the space. Then we have notifications, user management, and language selection. The next set of information is the main information about the RF, the frequency, power, if the power is at the set level, or if it's lower, and if it's lower, why it's lower. Reflected power, VSWR, temperature, and the fan and a power supply status. Next one is modulation. It's always good to know how the modulation is doing. At the moment, I've got a fixed tone level modulating at 100%. Modulation shown in percent and kilohertz as well. MPX power is probably more relevant to Europe and not really in the US. Overview of the MPX composition. So when you have different MPX sources or for different applications, the composition of the MPX signal, composite signal, can be different. So you have different amount of audio level, different level of pilot, RDS. So this is a overview, quick readback of the RDS data, just to show what's going on, and a basic configuration on the bottom for the processor, the stereo, an exciter, synchronization status, and network. So this is very land when you log into the unit to see how it's really doing. Next section is the radio frequency, where you configure the RF stuff. So frequency, power, and you can configure the external RF control, which can be either RF mute and interlock. It's basically just an external pin, and here you can choose polarity. So does it have to be engaged to turn the transmitter on, which is the interlock logic, or you can use it as a RF mute, which means if you engage the external pin, the transmitter mutes. Here is the simple on and off, manual on and off, the same that's available on the front panel. And if for some reason the unit can't turn the RF on, it gives you an indication why that is. If it's due to the external control, mute or interlock, fault, no input, and so on and so on. FSK setting, quite applicable for the US. It's configured here. Moving on to the inputs. The good thing about the way we conceptualize the menu is where you always try to give you some information on top of the page, like the information relevant to the settings in a particular menu section. So in the inputs, there is an overview of all the input meters. All the meters are inputs are metered live simultaneously. So if you had multiple inputs, they would be all the meters would be shown here. So if I just switch this off, now signal coming in via digital audio meters move up and down. Some basic settings. I'm not going to go into details. Fairly standard stuff. Any other input in terms of like an option. So for example, micro MPX as a modulation input or audio player. They have their own configuration places, menus, but they always, if the option is there, then the input shows in this list of meters. The next one is the audio processor. As you can see, it kind of follows the chain, the signal chain. We have built-in audio processor that's 4-band, comes with about 20 presets. Everyone should be able to choose from the 20 presets. They are designed from scratch. They're pretty much new and relevant to most of the popular music genders. Here you basically select the input to the processor, whether there is analog audio, digital audio player, and then if there is any other option enabled, for example, the IP audio codec, it also shows up here as an option. Stereo mono modes, pre-emphasis, and so on and so on. RDS. RDS is fully USCP compliant, fully dynamic. You can either configure it in a static manner in this page, so you put the information in and then it just goes on, or you can supply the RDS data externally, either from a dedicated USB port on the back panel via a serial link, or via network. Any kind of standard RDS data management system is supported through the USCP protocol. Exciter and stereo. Again, this is quite crucial a section of the menu where you configure the stereo generator, the MPX assembler, let's say, where you add the pilot, you add the RDS data, and you configure several of the other settings. Again, on top, we have an overview. How's the modulation doing? What's the current modulation, MPX power, and the MPX composition? Here we select in the exciter, we select the MPX source. It can be either internal, so that's the internally generated stereo from the coming from this audio processor, or we can have analog MPX source from a BNC on the back panel. We can have a digital MPX source, AES-192, and if the micro MPX is enabled, it shows here as available input. We can select the audio source, again, either internal, external, or we can switch it off. We can select the phase, level, and the overall deviation, which is under a little lock because, most of the times it should stay at the standard 75 kilohertz setting. Stereo encoder, so that's where you set a pilot, other parameters. You can even make a manual setting of the individual MPX components. So for example, when it's left to auto, we select the pilot level, the RDS level, and then the audio component is calculated automatically to make up 100%. If you, for example, want to overmodulate for whatever reason, we can you can do that manually. There are also clippers, audio clippers, composite clippers, which are also part of the audio processing presets. And then for testing purposes, they can be defeated. And MPX power limiter, again, probably not applicable to the US market. There are also some outputs. The main output is what we call monitoring. That can be either local. So probably one of very few manufacturers we put a headphone socket on the front panel. So if for confidence monitoring or during setting up the transmitter, you can connect your headphones and you can monitor either the audio coming from the processor, or you can monitor any of the audio outputs independently, regardless of the audio processor setting. So all these sources are available as a source for headphones, and the same signal is then also available for remote monitoring, which is realized through the web streaming. So it's a standard IceCast, and it plays directly from the browser. MPX output 1 pilot, which is labeled at the back as MPX output 2, and again there is a selection of various signals that can be sent out from the MPX output, and you can even realize like a loop through from the MPX input to the output. So the routing matrix is extremely flexible for audio, for MPX, and you can virtually route any input to any output if it makes sense. Right. So synchronization was one of the questions for the SFN. We have two synchronization inputs, 1 megahertz, 10 megahertz, 1 PPS. There's a status indicator here, and there's also a validity check. So the system checks if the signal coming in is really something that looks like 10 megahertz, and if it's really something that looks like 1 PPS, 1 pulse per second with certain timing. This page gives them a complete freedom in terms of synchronizing all three main elements of the broadcasting. So the first one is the carrier, which is what the 10 megahertz is for. So you can set it to internal and external. The second one is the pilot, so you can synchronize the pilot using the 1 PPS and set the any phase offset necessary. And then the third aspect of synchronization is the audio, either audio or MPX. So there is a delay line available for audio or for MPX should your modulation input is MPX. And we also have the option to synchronize the carrier, which is here more for testing purposes, of people like to demonstrate the SFN capability either on a spectrum analyzer or on an oscilloscope in a lab where the RF output from two transmitters is connected to an oscilloscope, and people look at how precisely the waveforms, the RF carriers get aligned on a screen. In reality, it's much more complicated, and these lab tests are more for academic purposes only. And the last, let's say, standard section of the menu is the audio player. So the unit can play audio either from a built-in storage or from attached USB device, or it can also receive internet radio stream. So there are plenty of backup sources available, either from like MP3 files, WAV files, or from a web stream or internet radio stream. Right, so that's the, let's say, basic configuration. And before I move on to automations, I'll just show you quickly the system settings. Under services, which cover all the connectivity and communication protocol settings, we have, as Brendan mentioned, we've implemented all the latest secure encrypted communication protocols, that being either HTTPS, encrypted emails, SNMP version 3, which is also encrypted, and we have the option to also have encrypted emails. So all these are configured for communication either here, and for the emails there's a separate menu item for email security and encryption. Unit configuration, so anything that's related to the physical, let's say the front panel, the date and time. This is the what Brendan mentioned, the local mode timeout. So you can set it to, something, maybe several hours really, just to make sure that at some point it connects back, and you can connect to it remotely. You can lock the front panel and implement a lock screen. So this is, imagine having a joystick that goes up, down, left, and right, and also a click if you press it. So this is how you configure the locking and unlocking code. You can give it a name. You can configure there's a button on the front panel. You can give it a custom function. Important for the US market, temperature in Fahrenheit, and also different date formats. And you can back up configuration, you can export it, you can import it in case you, for example, deploying a number of units which have identical configuration. So all these things are quite useful. Standard network configuration, nothing special here. User management, currently we support two levels of access. One is admin, the other one is viewer. So admin has access to everything, can change everything, while the viewer can read information. We have quite detailed log system. So in the logs, the system logs every change of parameter, any non-standard behavior, everything goes to logs. And again, if you require a support and you think that something's behaving weirdly, non-standard way, have a look into the logs or screenshot it, send it to us. We should be able to tell what's wrong, if there is anything wrong. Diagnostic page, quite helpful to see, individual parts of the functional parts of the product. Green tick means all good, and then there are some numerical readings like the power, the voltages, fans, temperatures, and so on and so on. And for higher power units, which have multiple pallets, multiple power supplies, it can go over several pages. So that's the system, and now the automations, the interesting stuff, which probably makes it very different from competition. Let me start with configs. Configs is a very powerful tool that can create individual unit configurations, which are created basically as a snapshot of a current configuration. Imagine that you had a menu and going through the menu, through the individual menu sections and changing parameters. So this menu is kind of reflected over here. So you can create a unit config that has only certain menu items included. So for example, when you are configuring failover, you need to be able to change configuration of the inputs or modulation source. So you don't really need to include the settings for the radio frequency and et cetera, et cetera. So here you create all the configs that you need to subsequently use in the automations. And you can create as many configs as you need. Down here is a quick overview of the configuration snapshot from all the menu sections as a quick reference. And also you can import, export the configs for example, deploying on multiple on other transmitters. So now we have the configs, and we can go to the automations. So let me start with the simple one. Modulation monitor and RF on off on modulation failure. So for whatever reason, the input goes away, modulation drops to 0. We're not legally allowed to broadcast silence. So this is when this automation comes in. If the modulation drops after set delay, you can set it to switch the RF off with the revert if you want the RF come back on after the input comes back to live. And we can do the same on synchronization signal loss. So imagine you have a SFN network, that's relying on presence of the synchronization signals. So should one of the transmitters lose, for example, the 10 megahertz, at the GPS unit failure or signal loss, something like that, you can either switch the RF off, or you can load the config. So you can load the config that, for example, has a lower power. So you make the average coverage area smaller, but you eliminate the overlapping area, which would eliminate any kind of interference between two now unsynchronized transmitters. Modulation failover, it's the evergreen of automations. So you can configure up to 3 backup sources. You define your primary source and up to 3 backup sources with all the thresholds and hysteresis like set delay, reset delay, and for the backups, revert to primary. So if your primary source comes back, it can resume from any of the backups back to the primary. And again, you have an overview. If you're configuring the failover, you have the live metering available on top of the page for you to see, your live inputs and modulation sources. The next automation is a scheduler, which is kind of standard scheduler. So again, you can create configs for day and night power levels, or if you have a fixed pattern of music or speech or program, then you can create a scheduler for the audio presets. So the presets, audio presets can be automatically changed based on the calendar and scheduler. It works on a weekly basis. Now we're getting to the notifications. So notifications is quite a powerful tool to let you know how the transmitter is doing. So you don't have to log into it. The transmitter can send emails or SNMP traps, and there are several layers of notifications. One layer is fault, so anything serious the transmitter thinks is really, really bad can be reported. We have a detected fault, which is a fan fault, which I have deliberately disconnected because it still makes a bit of noise. We have alarms on VSWR fallback temperature, loss of the synchronization signals. You can get a notification the unit has rebooted for whatever reason, loss of power, or activation of the external RF control. We have GPIs, the DB25 connector back. It has RS232 and 16 GPIOs in total. So we have 8 inputs, 8 outputs, and they are super flexible. They can be configured to react on events, anything that happens inside the transmitter during operation, either when automation events happen, or if you change the inputs, stuff like that. And you can also configure your own user events, user notifications. So this is just a simple configurations of the GPIs. The GPIs, they can, for example, trigger certain events. You can load a config based on, activating an external pin, which can be useful, with some other external control equipment. If, for example, for whatever reason, you don't wish to use network, Automations. So as I said, automations, they have their own notifications. They can be sent to the user or the engineer to notify that automation either has triggered or something has happened, input has changed, etc., etc. And the user notifications based on the power. So you can define if power drops or goes over a certain threshold, or you suddenly have a VSWR or loose modulation, temperature, and so on and so on. So yeah, freely configurable. You set the conditions, the thresholds, set reset delays. You can activate the GPO if you wish, and get email sent or SNMP trap. And here these icons, you can activate a user LED on the front panel. So for example, if you have the transmitter inside, then the LED can indicate with a color can indicate what kind of event has happened. So
Well,
that basically, yes.
It's Ted. Just so everybody can understand what kind of power you're talking about here. We've got a customer I think in Utah, but I might be wrong, who is feeding a 300 with MPX. But he's got his EAS receiver at the transmitter site. And when there's an EAS alarm, he uses that trigger out of that as a GPI for input that then triggers a configuration that he set up that changes the audio source to the analog inputs on the back of the transmitter, turns on the stereo generator, and turns on the processor, processes the EAS alert, and when it's done, puts it all back so that it's looking just at an MPX signal. Very, very powerful stuff, just built-in standard as part of the transmitter. So,
Correct. Thank you, Ted. You can imagine the configs and the configs management as if you had someone sitting in front of the unit itself or at the web interface and reconfiguring the transmitter for you based on either built-in detectors or any external events through the GPIs. Okay. So now let me just quickly mention some of the options. So this is the second unit that we have here. So this one has activated the micro MPX or licensed micro MPX decoder. So it appears, as a standard menu item on the left-hand side, and it gives you the micro MPX settings, whether it's enabled, disabled, the network configuration, delay as the delay line level. And then in one of the latest software updates, we also added the SFN synchronization. So all we need for that is external, relatively simple GPS receiver that's plugged into the USB port of the Cobalt for the location and timing data connection, and the 10 megahertz 1 bps signal, and then the unit does everything else itself. So it all synchronizes itself based on the network stream, the packets, and the information contained in the packets coming from the micro MPX encoder. The other option that we have is a tuner. So you can put a tuner. It's a small module, state-of-the-art DSP-based tuner that at the moment there's nothing connected. There's no antenna connected. So if I turn it on, it will just produce a lot of noise. Let me just turn it on. So all the meters come on, and you have digital audio as well as MPX connection from the tuner. So you can either rebroadcast the MPX as is, basically what comes in goes out, or you can extract audio from the tuner because the tuner, it has a very sophisticated a multi-band stereo processing. It's called FMSI. And the audio you can get from the tuner, it's usually better than, especially under the like weak signal conditions, the audio is better than the MPX. So you can use the audio and regenerate the MPX to bring it back to top quality MPX for full rebroadcasting. So there is a number of parameters available to the user to configure the tuner, and there are some indications, audio settings, and so on and so on. So now having the micro MPX and tuner, as I said, the tuner audio appears as an available source of audio for the audio processor, as well as in the exciter. The tuner MPX appears as a modulation source to the exciter. And last but not least, well, actually, there's one more. We have recently implemented did the full integration of the 2W comoin, again, which shows up as as a menu item on the left. And this is the page where you can see the meters again. You have the network configuration because that's the core, for the core configuration for the codec. Once it becomes accessible via network, then we click launch the web interface, and then everything else is done in the codec's own web interface. So it's loosely coupled, but with the advantage of being independent and separately accessible. So, for example, you can use a dual network access, one for control, one for audio, if you have this network configuration for security reasons. And now the last thing which we are currently working and hopefully will be available very soon is the advanced FM monitoring, which we are implementing through a system that can run also independently as a let's say industry proven FM analyzer. So this is something that we're building into the Cobalt as an option. And it provides you with all the necessary measurements with the modulation histograms, RF spectrums, modulation power, and MPX and audio decoding and monitoring the spectrum, MPX analysis, etc., etc. So that's all coming in. So if I stop the this is already live monitored from the Cobalt. So this is already built into the Cobalt, just using a non-standard interface for development. So if I stop the audio going in, stop the modulation, then what's left is just the pilot and RDS. So, and you can see that on the RF spectrum. So all that will be shortly also available as an add-on or available option for the Cobalt. All right, so I think that concludes the quick overview of what Cobalt can do, what options there are. What's the philosophy of control and configuration. So if now it's time for any questions you may have.
We do have a question from the YouTube side. James asks, will the digital modes of the audio processors have low-pass filters that are user variable?
Okay, that's a good question. So the audio processor, as I said, it comes with 20 presets. The processing chain is quite complex, as it usually is. The limitation of the processor in the Cobalt, that basically comes for free, is that you have to use the preset. So it's not user configurable. If you want to use a configurable processor and you want to create your own presets, then I'm afraid that's the job for the external processor like the Arctic or Pacific.
Does this by any chance have an audio output for left and right that you could use to feed your AM transmitter that this thing happens to be sitting right next to as an FM translator for an AM station, which happens a lot in the US?
We have quite a few customers who use the headphones output as an analog audio output. So you have left and right just coming from the 6.3 millimeter jack on the front panel.
Okay, well, it'd be really handy to have another jack so that you could plug headphones in to see what you're doing while you're doing it, rather than taking whatever your AM transmitter off the air. Not that anybody's listening, but
Sure, sure. Well, again, that's what the processor is for. It's got some audio inputs, audio outputs, analog as well as digital. This is a transmitter for the transmitter. We didn't put the analog outputs in, but you can still use the headphones output because it's really good.
I'm sure you put a headphone amplifier to buffer it or something. It would just be really, really handy if there was some way to get a distinct audio feed out the back, because there's an awful lot of translators that are paired with AM stations, at least in the US. And if we're going to get all our signal over IP to the thing using amazing box. Boy, this does a lot. It'd be real handy if you could just drive your AM transmitter off of the thing at the same time, and then problem solved. Now, I know I could put an FM tuner in the same rack with an AM transmitter, and I'm sure it'd pick it up all right. So could do that too.
Sure, sure. The only other thing I would say, the headphones output, the headphones amplifier is really good quality, and it can be used as regular analog output. So with the advantage of being able to drive really low impedances, as you know, what headphones usually are.
Well, that's fair enough. I just thought I'd ask the question.
Sure, thank you. Okay, so this is probably all from me. If you have any other questions, just feel free to reach out either through any reps or distributors or Brendan directly, and we would be more than happy to answer any of your questions.
Well, thank you, Pavel. Appreciate that.
Right.
Brendan, anything sort of last words here or last questions?
Oh, always last words, Barry. Let me just think if there's anything else that's, it's such a comprehensive product that, going through it quickly is, you can miss out a lot of things.
And you will arrange for a private demonstration for anyone that wants.
Of course, yeah. So if people look on our website, under the contact, there is arrange a meeting. There's a couple of meeting links. There's one for Spanish, one for English. You can go and you can select a time and date that's available. And we typically use Microsoft Teams, but if someone wants to use Zoom or Google Meet, we can use that as well. And that'll just fire it off back there, and it'll fill up. Whoever's calendar is going to do it, probably going to be me. You're going to be stuck with me, unfortunately. And then we're just go through it. It can take 30 minutes, could take an hour. We choose the pace that the person requesting the meeting wants to work at. How far they want to go in, whether it's like I said, a pre-sales. I'm interested in the product. What can I do? Okay, this is the scenario I've got. Can I do this? Or for people who've already got a product and they just want to know a lot more what they can get out of it.
Very good.
Pavel mentioned like switching things. I mean, I'll just give you a very short thing. We have a customer in New Zealand where they have an emergency sort of system that they use for earthquakes and things like that. And basically, instead of like the traditional EAS system you guys have in the US, they have just a break-in that was traditionally coming through a third-party box. And with the configs that Pavel was mentioning, they've got their regular config, they've got a couple of backups, and then they've got the emergency broadcast. And basically what happens is the government will put in the civil emergency, and they will hit the pin. The transmitter will change over, change the audio input, change the RDS data. That's all become a civil emergency and blah, 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 whatever's happening. As soon as it's over, they release it. It goes back to the regular programming. There's a lot. So people have come up to us and said, hey, can I do this? And we'll look at it and say, actually, yeah, we didn't think of that. That's a cool idea. Yeah, I can already do it, or we'll investigate it.
Well, we sure appreciate you and Pavel and all the information you brought us today, and look forward to hearing more about the Cobalt transmitters as you get more and more of them into the country here. And
yeah, great. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you all. Some of you like
especially appreciate that you raced from the airport to get here.
Anytime. So I don't know if you want to mention that is it August 28th? We've got another luncheon meeting with our new audio processor.
Go right ahead.
So August 28th, same time, we'll be talking about the processing and the Zen 10 stereo AGC with David Reeves, who I'm sure quite a few people know who he is. And if you don't, you'll certainly get your opportunity to meet the good man himself.
David was the man behind the Ariane, and so
Yeah.
now the Zen.
Yeah, and he was chief engineer at Z100 for quite a bit of time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, our thanks very much to both of you, and we'll look forward to seeing you next month.
It's been a
Thanks for
pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you very much.